Welcome to Fabulosity For You, and my name is Angie. If this is your first time visiting my channel, please click the subscribe button, then click the notification bell, so when I upload videos, you'll be the first to know. Like this video and make a comment. This channel is about fashion, relationship advice, and lifestyle. If this is not your first time visiting my channel, well, welcome back, my queens, and welcome to the kings out there. And welcome to all of my fabulous ones. Welcome back to my fabulous ones that have been with me since day one. Today, I am doing a review of the 90-Day Fiancé Tell-All Part 1 and 2. Okay, so we're going to get right into it. I'm so glad that this tell-all only had a part 1 and 2, because in the past we went to 3, 4, 5, and it was just way too much. So the tell-all, I guess it was okay. I would rate it probably a 5. That's what I would rate it. Okay, so let's get right into the tell-all. Okay, so the couples came in, and I'm just going to give you the highlights. The couples that came in that stood out to me was Alliya, and she was with, of course, her man is Shawn. And Alliya came in, honey, hair was flowing. She had on a fur coat, baby. She looked like a rock star, honey. She had her sunglasses on. I was like, okay, girl, I see you. You know, Angie's all about the fashion, and she had the fashion. Now, I think Joan's yellow jumpsuit was fabulous, and she looked good in it, honey. Her body was right. Them braids was tight. Honey, she looked good. She had her makeup on. I love the way Joan looked. Now, we did not discuss this season Sarper and Shekinah. And I didn't want to discuss them because they just be doing way too much, okay? I've had enough of them. They've been on for a lot of many seasons, and it's a girl bye for me. But I will give it to Shekinah. Shekinah came in a, I would say, money green, and I liked her outfit. She looked really nice. Okay, so as far as fashion, those two were the highlights. Who I would say fashion was like not good, I would give it to Amani. She's with the throuples, Amani. That green and her man and Mac, they just didn't look good at all, honey. I did not like that green they had on, and she just was just too much of everything. So the couples came in, and I'm just going to talk. I have to mention Sarper and Shekinah because they really was the ones that was carrying the tell-all. So Sarper comes in, and he's by himself, and he and Shekinah have been having problems, honey. Well, they didn't even come together. He was like, oh my God, I just hope she's here. I don't know if she's coming or not. And they come in, he comes in, and all the guys are loving Sarper. And they're giving him, Sarper's giving them advice. He was like, listen, if you don't like what somebody say it. Bust them out. Call them out. Don't hold it in. And Shekinah comes in, and she's saying that there's drama between her and Amina. And so the couples come in, they go to the stage, and they're on set. And Shekinah, let me back it up. She tells Stevie that Amina, she had spoken to her, and she gonna tell her, I'm apologizing in advance when we get to the tell-all you might not like what I have to say, but I'm telling you I'm sorry in advance. And that was shady. That was very shady. She was honest, but it was shady. And Shekinah didn't like it. Now, let me just say this. In the tell-all, everybody was jumping on Shekinah, honey. They was jumping on her. They said she not a girl's girl. I think they was hating on Shekinah. That's just my opinion. But Shekinah and Amani just did not get along. So they get to the on stage, to the set, and those two were going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth about being phony and you not a friend. You know, she said that Shekinah said she had asked Amina a question that was personal that she doesn't want on to be televised, and she ended up telling what it was about. But we'll get to that. So those two come on stage, and everybody's on stage, and Shekinah and Sarper are arguing, saying they have not been together, sleeping in the same room. They moved out of rooms. And Shekinah is saying that Sarper just has way too much problems, and she just feels like there's no hope for them. And she said after they got married, the wedding took a turn, and he was tripping. He said she put him out of the apartment. And it was because he kept threatening her about going back home and being with other women. But my thing is, you married a gigolo, basically. You married a whore. That's what Sarper is, a whore. He bragged about sleeping with over 1,000 women. And that's why I didn't want to talk about them. Because it's just, to me, ridiculous. You married a man that you know was a hoe. And what do you expect? And so, make a long story short, they had been having problems. She was crying. He called her. He said, if we were to break up, you would be like a dog. You would regret it like a dog. And she's like, are you calling me a dog? Yes. So, her problem was with him, basically, was that he never did give her a ring. Okay? He never gave her an engagement ring or any of that. And so, at the end, after all the fighting and arguing, he said he spent over half of his life savings to buy her this ring. And when I say he bought her ring, baby, he bought her ring. It would have shut anybody up. And it shut her up, honey. Okay? So once she got her ring, she was all good. Okay? So then they bring Stevie and Maddie. Okay? They had the mic, honey. And Stevie said that, Maddie said that he was a personal trainer. And Stevie says she brings all her female friends to him, that he has helped her. She was well over 200 pounds. He put her on the diet, honey, made her exercise, and this is what she is today. And so I guess he's been successful with his training. Now, they brought his friend Saeed on, and he was like, how much money can he make in Mississippi as a trainer? And he was being very negative. They brought up Stevie not telling Maddie if she's been with a woman or not, if she's bi or not. And she's not going to answer, honey, so that just tell you what it is. That Shawn asked him, do you believe that she maybe kissed another woman? And he said, yeah, of course. And as I've been telling you, the father had already said, I thought you was going to be with a woman. So, I mean, the cat is already out the bag, but she has not come out. And they asked him, well, Shawn asked him, if she were to be bisexual or have been with a woman, how would you feel? Would that affect the marriage? And he said, yes, it would. And so, what I don't like about Maddie is, if you felt like this woman was gay, well, bisexual, and she won't answer the question, and this was something that you felt like you needed to know, why did you get married to her? I said it all along. I really don't trust that Maddie that really loves Stevie like that. And his friend had said that he told Maddie that he can live with him. He can come out, I believe he lives in LA, that he can come out and live with him. Now they asked him, well, Shawn asked him, well, what did you respond to that? And Stevie was like, you never even mentioned that to me. And he was like, well, I never gave him an answer. I just said thank you. So, honey, that's because you thinking about you might do this. Because this man would have such a bad impression on Stevie if it was not for Maddie. And so if you felt like this is something you wouldn't do, or you feel like he shouldn't have said this to you, then you're going to tell him, no, I don't need to move with you. I'm with my wife. But he going to lie and say, well, I thought he meant like for both of us. And no, you know he didn't mean that. So I have been saying all through this season, I really don't trust Maddie feelings are real for Stevie. Stevie has not, and it could be maybe the father of her children don't want the children mentioned, or, well, they was mentioned, but she has children. They're not even talking about it. So it's a 10-year difference, I believe, with Stevie and Maddie. So I don't really believe that he has the feelings for her that she has for him. Because he could have shut his friend down a long time ago. He was like, man, I'm sorry I had brought you into my relationship and said some things I shouldn't have said. But I was really nervous about getting married. But I love this woman and I'm not going nowhere. So there it is. But he never did that. He never shut him down. Now, a guest that came on was Veronica. And she said she was dating a Persian man and she wanted to just talk with them because she said, you know, the cultures are really similar. And one thing you cannot do, that was her advice, you told him he needed to not call his family too much. And she was like, you can never come between a Persian man and his mama and his family. You would never win. So she said, I just feel like you were wrong on that. And she accepted it. Stevie accepted it. She said, well, right now, I'm the one that's telling him, hey, you need to call your mother more. I'm the one that's saying that. Call your family. But I admit I shouldn't have said that. And so basically, they start asking him, well, no, Veronica told Stevie, Maddie has a right to know if you've been with a woman. This is your husband. And by you not saying nothing, it's still not being honest, and he deserves that. So she was like, well, yeah, that's true. And then everybody was chiming in saying, well, maybe he haven't given you a safe space to really tell him the truth. And he isn't, because he told her, well, if you tell me that you've been with a woman, I don't know where our marriage is going to be. That's a big statement. And so she said, because he said that, right now she's not going to talk about it. And she definitely not going to talk about it on TV. That they will probably have to do some talking when they're by themselves. I believe that she is bisexual. And I believe that she should have told him that before they got married. He even asked Shawn, hey, when you was married to a heterosexual woman, did you think about being with a man? And so he basically was like, well, you know, I did, but at the end of the day, I fell in love with that person. But I think that was something that she should have shared with her husband before he got married, especially if it meant a lot to him. And if he left, then that man wasn't for you. But we have to, I guess, see what ends up happening with these two. I personally don't believe that they're going to last. I don't think that, and this is just my opinion, I don't think that Maddie's intentions are for the best for Stevie. Okay? That's the best way I can say it. So then we're going to go with Juan and Jessica. So Juan and Jessica is tripped out because Jessica, they bought out her friend Megan. And so Shawn asked, the host Shawn asked Megan, you made a threat to Juan. Do you still feel like that threat is still valid today? And she was like, yes. And he was like, she said, I mean that. And then he said, oh, whatever. And she was like, bitch. She called him a bitch. And I'm like, wow. So you gonna disrespect your best friend's husband, mother of her child? And he was like, you need to back off and mind your business. Now, what I don't like is, this is Jessica's friend. She should be able to tell her friend, listen, back off. If she can't do that, or if she, that's what I always felt like, she's telling her it's okay to do that. Because she felt a certain way that Juan did cheat on her, even though she cheated as well. So Danielle was the guest, and she came out and she said, these two remind me of me and my man. She said she used to be a bartender, and she knows that you get flirted, people flirt with you. It's hard for somebody that's married to be in that type of industry. Okay? And so it was tripped out because when she came out, she had on the same dress that Jessica had on. Oh my God, how embarrassing. How embarrassing you got a dress and somebody else got the same dress on. Oh wow. And so so they asked him, hey, have you found a job? And he was like, he has not found a job. And Megan said that her husband is the one that is his reference and give him a good reference, and then he goes to the job interview, or then he says he doesn't want the job. And so they're getting tripped out about that. And they asked him, would you really want to go back to on the boat being the bartender? And he was like, that was my dream job. And so I'm going to have to say yes. Now, Juan is married, okay? And he has a baby. And so he cheated on the boat. That's when she met him on the boat. So absolutely not should he be back on the boat. I think Juan has some growing up to do. But again, I believe that Jessica is older than Juan. And he's very immature. I mean, just period. How are you turning down jobs and you have a child and a wife? Who do that? Who does that? So, I think he's very immature. And then he says that a lot of women are coming on to him, going into his DMs. He answers some of them when he should answer none of them. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, like Danielle said, I mean, if they're asking, everybody was chiming in, if they're saying, hey, you and your wife make a good couple, or something like that, you can chime in. But if you know this woman is trying to get with you, then why in the hell would you be answering? So I think that he might end up cheating on Jessica again. And he needs to get a job, honey. He needs to get a job. He has a family. So I don't know. I don't know if that's going to work. Is he going to be just satisfied living in a small town, just working a regular job? I don't know. We have to continue to follow this couple. So the next couple we're going to talk about is Mark and Mina. What I will say is Mina's hair looked 100% better. She finally got a nice wig. I think the color, the brown, brought her skin tone out. She looked really nice. I like Mina's hair and her makeup. So she said they're getting, well, Marcus sound like he's very smitten. He said Mina is a perfect wife. Mina got her way, honey. Mina got her way. She didn't like living where they was living. And so now they done moved to Boston and she's loving it. She's loving it. And Mark even said, hey, you know, we might decide to move to Paris or whatever. This man got money, so Mina hit the jackpot, okay? So Jordan comes out, okay? And people was on her saying, hey, you know, to say the way you treated her wasn't right. And she was like, well, yeah, I know. You know, it's just, we both had to get to know each other. I was just very protective of my father. Honey, you was protective of your father's money, honey. Period. And so she was like, and everybody was like, but you saying she shouldn't have no kids with your father? And everybody was like, you should be glad your father found somebody, and if he's happy and want to have children, and then, you know, you need to be happy for him. And she was like, yeah, I am. I don't care really about him having other children. I was wrong for that. And so they was like, well, are you guys trying to have children? And so they was like, well, no, not really. I don't think she's using protection. But he was like, we really not trying to have kids right now. They trying to get her son to the United States. But then he said in another breath, well, you know what? She's pregnant. And you should have seen the daughter's face. The daughter was like, she was looking very disturbed. And everybody was like, oh my God, are you pregnant? And then he said, no, we're not pregnant. And then they was like, how did you feel about them saying that they were pregnant? And she was like, oh, I knew they were joking. I knew they were joking. Honey, if that man have another baby, which he gonna have because she want it, let me tell you something. She gonna be mad as hell. Then they showed a clip where they were in the jacuzzi Mark and Mina was in the jacuzzi, and they was talking about the Jordan, and she called Jordan a snake, and told him, hey, you can sleep in another room. And Mark was telling her what his daughter said, and he was like, I know I was messy. And he was messy. It is messy to go back and say something that you know is going to hurt your wife that your daughter said. If you want them to have a good relationship, then you wouldn't say it. Everything, and I always say this, honey, everything that you think does not have to be said. A period. Okay, so basically that's what happened with them. They seem like a very healthy relationship. I like how he is taking accountability of the part he played between Jordan and Mina. I like that he took accountability. I like that he decided to move to make her happy, where he loved, where he stayed. I love the fact that he adopted her son. So I think Mark and Mina are on the right path, and I'm really happy for them. I like them as a couple. So next we're going to talk about John and Greg. Okay, so John and Greg, Lucille comes out, and Lucille talks about how she was hurt that John had said to her she should leave her house and be gone more often. Everybody was like, oh my God, I can't believe she said that. And I said when I first heard it, that maybe they told her, production told her to say something crazy like that, because that doesn't seem like that's Joan's style. She's from Africa, I believe, and I believe this, they're very respectful towards their elders. So Big Ed comes out, and Lucille is saying that he comes out and he just point blank says, I'm not finna sugarcoat this, I'm just finna let it be said. John, I think you need to give him a deadline of 30 days to have put you guys in your own home. You are a grown man, and you need to be in your own home with your wife. And she was like, yeah, I think I should say that. And he was like, I agree. So Lucille was like, I think they need to find their own place. So Shawn asked John, are you planning on having any children? Are you on any birth control? And Lucille was like, I wanted to know that. And she was like, no, why should I be? This is my husband. If I get pregnant, I get pregnant. We want children. So why would I be on birth control? So Lucille was kind of upset about it. She was like, well, I done raised my kid, and I don't want to start this process over again. He has done this already. So I already have one grandchild. And I was like, what? Okay, so Greg has a child, which they never talked about. And so you had probably another woman in your mama's house, had a baby in your mama's house, and your mama was like, honey, this is my house. And she was like, I don't want to be raising somebody's kid. I don't want to do that. And so she kind of stepped in and was like, do you hear what she's saying? Why would you want to have children in Lucille's house? And she was like, you need to be taking birth control pills. She was like, this is my husband. I'm not about to have a child in her house. If I was to get pregnant, he's going to move me out. And so they was like, well, you can't think that a baby going to push him to move now. It could end up in disaster. And she was like, I'm just saying, she doesn't want you to have children in her house, and you need to respect that because it's her house. And she was like, well, you're not going to tell me about whether I can have a baby or not, or children or not. And she was like, well, she can, and she just did. She didn't say that to me. She said she just said it. And she said, well, I trust in my husband that he's going to get me out of the house, out of her house before I have a baby. And I couldn't believe how indignant John was getting. Because at the end of the day, you married a man that lived with his mama. And so everybody was like, you know, they was complaining about privacy and they can't be intimate and all of this. And Juan was like, get a hotel. Get a motel. Go in your car. Be creative. But at the end of the day, that's that woman's house. That's her house. And so Lucille was like, well, he mentioned about a trailer park by his job, and I thought that might be a good starter for him. And he was like, well, I've been looking around at condos and co-ops, and we've put some money away. I've been working 14 hours a day, put money away. And so there's things that are affordable for us. And everybody was like, okay, it might be affordable for you, but you got to take the step and do it. If you got the money, put it on an apartment. That's what Ed said. Get you an apartment. But get out your mama's house. You're too old for that. You're not a child. And of course, he was like, he looked like he had tears in his eyes. Well, I'm going to do that. And she was like, well, I didn't know that she wanted us to get out that quickly. And they was like, well, didn't you say you wanted to move to her country? And he was like, yeah. And so they said, what you think about that, Lucille? How would you feel? And she was like, at this point, I mean, hey, I can't tell them what to do. And at this point, I need me a man. It's not too late for me. I'm not no old lady sitting in the shoe. In the shoe. Okay? I'm not no old maid, and I want me a man. And so he was like, well, you know, how do you feel about, they asked Greg, how do you feel about your mama wanting a man? I don't have no problems with it. She a grown woman. She can do what she want to do. And so that's what Lucille said. I'm a grown woman. I can do what I want to do. So she want they behinds out of her house. And I don't blame them. And they complaining, well, John complaining that they don't have privacy. Man, you need to put your foot on his neck, like Big Ed said, and put some demands on him and put a timeline on it. I'm with that because he knew she was coming. Maybe you couldn't have gone over to where she lived so many times so you can save money. He should have got a job way before she came there. So, I don't know what Greg is going to do. He claimed he's going to try to move, but he still have not moved. And they sitting up having unprotected sex, and Lucille want him out. So, Lucille ended up saying that they asked Big Ed, was he single, and he said yeah. So she like kind of grabbed him and hugged him and all of the things. They ended up leaving together, and he said, let's go get a drink. And she was like, I gotta go back home. They taking me back. But she grabbed his behind jokingly. And so Greg was like, I definitely wouldn't want Big Ed to be my father, honey. And I don't blame him. So, I don't know. Is Greg really gonna move out his mama's house? He done already had a baby with another woman in that house. I don't know if this is his second marriage, but he's had a baby in his mama's house. And she was like, I'm not with it. And I don't blame her. Okay, so the next couple we're gonna be talking about is going to be the throuple. Amani, Matt, and Annie. Okay, so Amani looked like a freaking clown. The woman was beautiful the way she was. And she ended up having plastic surgery and ended up messing herself up, honey. Her nose looked like she got a Michael Jackson nose. a cliff. I mean, she just did not look good. She looked better without the surgery. And I hate to say it, a lot of people that I see with surgery look better before they had the surgery. So everybody was like, well, you had surgery, and what did you have done? And she was like, I had my butt done. I had my breast done. I had my nose done. It looked like she had a lot of work done. And they was like, well, why did you do that? You was already beautiful. Well, you know, social media had me feeling bad about myself. So Shekinah was like, well, you did it for the wrong reasons. And so you shouldn't have done it. And she was like, well, what reasons did you do it for? And she was like, because this is what I always wanted. I did it for me. And so she was like, well, you're being very rude. So them two was going at it throughout the whole tell-all. So they end up asking her husband, what do you think about it? He was like, well, I begged her not to do it because I thought she was already beautiful. No. You and Annie was telling me I was too skinny, I was this, I didn't have a behind, and y'all made me feel bad. And so he was like, that's not what we were doing. You did get too small. That was the truth. But we didn't ask you to go have surgery. And so Shekinah, again, everybody was chiming in saying, well, you did it because you trying to impress them, because you did it to please other people. And so she was like, I just made a bad mistake. I did. And my girls was like, Mom, you look different. And it was just hard talking with them because I don't want them to feel like they're not beautiful. And so Shekinah chimed in again. So again, they was battling back and forth. So they said, what was it? So you guys broke up with Annie. How long? And they was like, well, we're back together. We wasn't broke up long. And Annie was like, well, we was broke up a month. And they was like, well, it was about 2 weeks. She said, no, it was about a month. And so she said, well, we worked it out. I really love Annie. And so Matt was like, at the end of the day, he said, I wanted this because she wanted it. She wanted to live her truth. She wanted to, she was never able to live her truth, and I wanted to give that to her. So and he said, I'm a man and I can't do it. So it sounds like to me, as I said before, she married this man so she can have her children. And maybe because of her family. And so now she wants to be with a woman. The only thing is, she said, she has not slept with Annie by herself. Whereas Matt and Annie sleep together all the time. And she works a lot. And so Matt goes out to where she lives, to her country, on a regular basis without her. And so everybody was like, oh my God. So Shawn was like, Annie, do you really like to be with women? Would you want to be with her on a one-on-one? And she was like, I would love to. She's a beautiful woman. I do love her. But we just don't have the correct connection right now because she works a lot. Honey, this how I know Amani is not into her husband like that. They have children together. They've done it, whatever. But he don't light her on fire, honey. Because why would you let another woman be with your husband? And then the woman not even being with you on a one-on-one. So they said that they are about to go through a divorce. She wasn't wearing her ring. All that woman gonna do, honey, is take your man. Ooh. I take your man. I take your man. I your man. That's all Annie gonna do is take her man, honey, and be married to him. Now, he don't have a job. That's the thing. Everybody was like, especially Sarper, was like, Matt, everything is just to Amina. It's like you have no balls. And he was like, what? Because I want her to live her life the way she wants to live it, and I support her. I'm wrong. And, honey, you, first of all, he benefited from it. He having sex with another woman. Okay? And at the end of the day, they both said they didn't like her looks. Basically, since her plastic surgery. She got to work, so she can't have sex with him like that. So, honey, all she doing is, I take your man. That's all she doing. And Matt is going to be down for whatever Amina wants because she paid the bills. It paid the cost to be the boss. Look at me. Paying the cost to be the boss. So he going to do whatever she say. She running it. And she want her woman, Annie, to be the same way, honey. She wants to be the boss. And so, then they were saying, do you think that, does Annie still strip? And she was like, no. And they asked Annie, and she was like, of course. So everybody was like, there's so many lies going on here with your girl, Annie. And so they brought up the fact that when Annie went off for her Amina, because she didn't get her money, they was like, well, how much money are you getting? And they was adding it up, honey. She gets trips, clothes, this, that, rent paid, $2,000. That she spent about $60,000 on this woman since they've been together. And so Amina was like, I did not stop the payment. It was something going on with my bank, and they the ones that stopped the payment. And so they said, well, she snapped on you when you didn't have the money. So that says a lot, right? Are you afraid not to pay her? And so she was like, yeah, I am. And he was like, well, you know, we have to talk about that. I never knew that. It's not about money. Girl, you on your job with them too. They some freaks. And you getting paid good money to be with the freaks. And if she's stupid enough to bring you to America, well, married to her husband, they still got to take care of her, honey, and her kids. So she coming out a winner. So at the end of the day, they brought up how Annie, they showed a clip of her telling her, you a stripper. Ain't no way in the world I'll be a stripper. I would never lower myself to be a stripper. Oh my God, she really talked really bad to Annie, and everybody was discussing about it, and she was like, well, yeah, I didn't feel bad. I felt really bad talking to her like that. I apologize lots of times and on many different levels. And so Annie was like, well, she did say she was sorry, but everybody was like, that woman meant what she said. You made her mad, the truth came out. But at the end of the day, everybody feels like Annie is, honey, Annie just playing them both. Annie is using them, period. I said it all along, and that's what everybody thinks. So, everybody is telling them, don't get a divorce, wait. And they was like, no, we want to do it. So, I don't know if they're doing this for TV or for show, but Amina, I think, is more into her a woman than she is a man. And if they stupid enough to get divorced and she let this woman take her man, then she the doggone fool. But what Mina said is, ain't no way on God's green earth will I let another woman in my bed with my man. And I'm with her, honey. I'm with her. So I'm going to try to make this real quick because I don't want this to be very long. We're going to talk about the last couple. I believe this is the last couple. Yes, I believe it is. We're going to talk about Alliya. Oh, let's talk about Danielle real quick. So, Danielle was on the show, and she basically was telling, she got into it a lot with, it was a lot of arguing going on with, everybody was ganging up on Shekinah, and okay, and so Stevie and Maddie got into it, and they was trying to take up for Shekinah. Why, I don't know. Maddie really got into it, but I think I did mention Danielle already, but what I forgot to mention was between Danielle and Jessica. Honey, I might have said it, and I'm sorry if I said, I think I did say they had the same dress on. So let me keep it going. So the last couple we're going to talk about is Aaliyah and Sean. So they asked Shawn, is he, you know, they mentioned that they asked, I think it was the host, Shawn, said, how is the relationship going? And so they said, well, it's about 80% good. And then Shawn said, Aaliyah's husband, well, we're not having sex. So everybody was like, well, then your relationship ain't going good. It's not, definitely not no 80% going right. Now, they did bring out Shawn's friend that helped coordinate Aaliyah's wedding. And Shawn was like, I was so upset with her because we waited 2.5 hours. And she knew my mother was not feeling well. And so he got on his friend and said, I'm sitting up bringing you in to help her, and you did not do that. So I got a problem with you. And everybody was like, well, she probably couldn't have dragged Alliya out. She was not ready to come out. And Alliya was like, well, yeah, this was my day, and to be honest with you, hey, nobody told me that your mother, everybody was saying your mother was okay. So once I heard she was okay, I got back into me. And so I do know that I was wrong for that, and I apologize for that. And he said, right, because it just turned me off. And they said that he went on his honeymoon by himself. Now, that was to the extreme. She was wrong. But mama ended up being okay. Okay, she wasn't dying. It was wrong. But she was okay. She ended up being okay. So to go on your honeymoon by yourself, girl, bye. And she said he was gone the whole month. And they was like, wow. So they asked him, are you having sex have you had since you've been married sex with somebody else? And he didn't miss his word. He was like, of course, yes, I have. And so he said, wow. Everybody was like, wow. And Alliya was looking all sad. And he was like, I'm going to always love her. I will always be there for her. But I don't know if we would stay together. I don't believe we'll stay together if she continues and have a sex change. I can't do it. And so she said, and so Alliya was crying, and he said, but I will always be there for her. Now he is paying for everything, okay? So I believe that this man loved her before she became Alliya. Loved her as Doug. Fell in love with Doug. Wanted to see how far she's going to go. And now he sees that she could go a lot further. He's not attracted to her body. he said that he's attracted to a man's body. So, with that being said, we know this is not going to work, okay? But he's going to be responsible for her. It's, you know, when you bring somebody over, you got to be responsible. So he's going to be responsible for her, but I don't think it's going to work out in her favor. He said that they asked him, do you love her? And it took him a minute, honey. Well, she was looking like she was on pins and needles. Because she came from a very poor environment. And now she living in Beverly Hills, okay? And she got a man that got money, baby. So, she needs this man. And I believe she do love him, but really because he does a lot for her. But he set up, it took him a while, but he said, I do love her. And I'm always love her. And so everybody was like, well, even if y'all don't stay together, he's always going to be there for you. And he's going to be there for you. He has to. You gotta take care of the people you bring over for a long time. And so she was crying and she was saying she gonna always love him. And she wrote this poem and everybody was crying. She was crying when she read the poem. I was damn near crying listening to that. And he felt bad that, hey, this woman loved me. And I'm sleeping around and I just don't love her like that. No, you know, this is not the person I fell in love with. And so he felt bad enough to say, and he was crying, I'm sorry. I know I really acted a fool on our wedding day, and I am sorry. I didn't have to do all of that. And I said to you guys, she was wrong, but this was her wedding day. And he could have saved all of that nastiness until after the wedding. Until after the honeymoon. Let her have her day. And everybody was like, we wish you guys could have done a do-over because you really messed it up. You was clowning her to the 10th power. And I'm glad he apologized to her. And so basically, we don't know how they're going to end. It looked like they're not going to be together, but he's going to always take care of her and be there for her. And so I'm glad he said that. And so basically, that was the tell-all, what happened. Sarper, as I said, gave Shekinah this big ring. Everybody was arguing Shekinah down after the tell-all. And when they went on breaks, Shekinah and Danielle was arguing, and Matt and Amina was jumping on Shekinah. So the only support she had really was from Stevie and Maddie. And so that's it. That's all I have. I'm glad it's over with. I hope you enjoyed this video. In the comments, tell me what you think about each couple. Do you think they're going to make it or they're not going to make it? I would love to hear from you guys. And I'll see you in the next video.